say? Oh, I got caught up in all this. So, what's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another installment of the Kingpin Talks podcast with your boy Dunn the Kingpin, with my co-host Nate. And I want to introduce at this time our new co-host who has joined the Kingpin Nation. He goes by Ant, aka playoff tone mode, free agency tone mode, wherever tone is out there. Anton, welcome, brother. We welcome you to the family. You always welcome here. We love you. We thank you for joining us on this journey of ours. And I want to welcome each and every one of you who did not count a robbery to join us on tonight. Yes, it's been a while since we seen y'all. It's been a while. We missed y'all. We know that y'all have missed us too. But we're back. We're back, baby. We back and we ready to keep this thing rolling and keep this thing flowing like we always do. So on tonight we have a very uh deep discussion that we're going to discuss a topic that is near and dear to all three of our hearts, and I'm pretty sure it's near and dear to y'all hearts as well. We're going to be talking about how to deal with grief, and we know that is something that is not easy. It's very difficult. At times it could be draining, it could be overwhelming. But we hopefully on tonight, whatever we're gonna say, we just pray and hope that it will encourage you to be able to overcome your grief, and that you'll know that just because you're grieving, just because you run through a period of grief, does not mean that it's the end of your life. So I'm turning over to the fellas at this time to see if they got anything to say before we kick this thing off.
Hey, I guess I'll go next. When Dunn brought this topic up, it was definitely right on time because a lot of you that probably don't know, we haven't done a show. I don't think since the when we did our show in December, we did a college football show with my good friend Mike. That's you guys may have seen on the Falcon show with me. At that time, my when we did the show, Dunn can attest to this. I was doing that show at my grandmother's house at the time because my granddad was in the hospital. So a couple weeks, maybe what was it, maybe 2 weeks after we did the show, he ended up passing away. So this topic was definitely one that when Dunn brought it up, it had to be done because with with so much that has taken place this year alone, it was just perfect timing for this topic to happen. And I hope we get a chance to really hit in some deep topics tonight with this one right here, because at the end of the day, this is not a topic that you go through after a month or 6 months or a year. There are still people that are 10, 15 years into grieving in their own right in any particular situation. So this is going to be a really good topic. And again, I'm like Dunn, I'm hoping that this topic really hits home for anyone that's dealing with any type of grief in any sort of shape or fashion.
Yeah, real quick, just want to say, thanks Don for, the intro. Really happy to be a part of, what y'all are building here, and excited to talk about this. I think most people can probably relate to experiencing loss in some way, shape, or form. And so, I feel like it's an important conversation to have, and I'm excited to have it and to be a part of it. So,
Well, like I said, Anthony, we're very happy that you decided to join us. Like Nate was saying, this is a topic that affected and still affects all three of us to this day. And we're not going to dismiss the fact that it affects all of you all out there that may be going through a period of grief. Um, I'm still at times I still shed a few tears. What's going on, Keenan? What's up, bro? All love to you as well. Go check him out. He had a very enormous sports channel, man, sports page that I have assisted him in. So very glad that he's doing his thing. But yeah, I lost my grandmother late in December 2022, and to this day, I still shed a few tears here and there whenever I hear a song that reminds me of her. Whenever I sit down, I just think about the times that we had. My grandma, she was like a mom to me, really. She was the person who I grew up with the first few years of my life. I remember the times that I would go to her house and chill with her weekend after weekend. I remember those times where I would just call and check on her and things of that nature. And like I said, to this day, it's still something that I still go through, and I'm still being affected by. Like, as a matter of fact, and as I told these two brothers on the stream right here, earlier this week, I'm preparing to go out of town this weekend to spend time with my family, and this is gonna be the first time in a while that I'm gonna be able to see her headstone in person, and I know I'm gonna shed a few tears because I never had the chance to see her headstone in person. So this is gonna be my first time. So grief doesn't have any discrimination. Is like they say, it's rated E for everyone. Everybody have their little period of have their period of grief. And at the end of the day, can nobody dictate how long you grieve except for you. And like I said earlier, just because you grieving doesn't mean it's the end of your life. You can't still have fun. You can't still enjoy life. Grieving doesn't have to come in and interfere with that stuff. Yes, you can have fun. Yes, you can go out here and live your life, but at the same time, you have to deal with that grief. You got to deal with the hurt that grief has caused. And so, like I said, like we've said earlier, we hope that whatever we're gonna say on this channel tonight, on this episode on tonight, we hope that it encourages you, and we just hope that through this you can tell other people who you may know that's maybe grieving. You can tell them how to overcome grief. You can tell them about what you're gonna hear on tonight, and that's gonna help them. So I don't know who you are, but what's up? Don't know who you are, but what's up? What's up? But yeah, that's all I had to say so far. I'm just gonna pass it all around, and we're gonna get into these comments, and we're gonna chat up tonight.
All right. Let's. So that's back from ESN too, of course.
Right.
It won't show up if you don't sign up under the thing. It will show your picture, so that's why it's not showing up.
Right.
But show these comments real quick. Finley, what's up, bro? Y'all know he be on the Madness. He does a lot of the Madness stuff with me.
What's up, Finley?
Jordan, what's going on, man? Checking in, fellas. It's an excellent topic. We appreciate that. And Mike, we were just talking about you doing God's work. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate but passing over to me, I want to show what the definition of grief is. This is a deep and poignant distress caused by or as if by bereavement. And as Don was just mentioning about his grandmother, my granddad, he died on January 3rd this year. And I will be honest, as far as myself in the grieving process, I will say that you never stop. Honestly, you will never stop grieving. And what I mean by that is you can be fine all day long, but you'll have moments throughout the day. Like, for example, for me, Don's known me since 2008, or maybe even longer than that.
We go way
back, so they remember seeing my granddad at Mount Zion sometimes coming to get me from school when I wasn't driving at the time. And, they know how big I was on him. So it's a lot of things that will trigger some of your memories. For me, with it being so fresh this year, like prime example, I'm a big time Atlanta Braves fan. He was a huge Braves fan. So it's hard to watch a full Braves game and not get a phone call the next day or during the game where they're winning, especially a season like this. And I tie it to that because right now, if you are following sports, the Braves have been really hot this year. He would have been calling, hey, the Braves have scored X amount of runs. Did you see the Braves game last night? So when you don't get those phone calls, it's a weird feeling.
Yeah.
Father's Day was a weird feeling for us because it was the first one without him. His birthday was 3 weeks after the funeral. So a lot of those things were coming up back to back to back. And those things are not easy to deal with when, especially fresh out the gate, because, dealing as far as grief, one thing that I can truly say, and I want to throw these 5 terms out, was denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. So I think we all have to go through particular things in regards to the grieving process. But I will say, for me, the one thing that I did not do of those 5 stages, I did not go through the bargaining process, because at the end of the day, me and Don are very spiritual. we know when it's your time is your time. I'm not going to sit there. I'm not going to question God's time. And even if I selfishly want him to get better, and that was a conversation that me and Don was having a lot during the time that he was in the hospital, was I'm not about to question what God has for him. At the end of the day, if it's his time, it's his time. So that was a hard thing to kind of come to terms with at that particular time. And then for me, I can personally say that I have not went through the acceptance stage. I can wholeheartedly say it to all of you, because I'm not going to so much say that I don't understand that he is no longer gone. But the hard thing is when you go through, like I said, the minimum moments of the Braves, like going up there, even going to see my grandmother on a day-to-day, on a regular basis, and not seeing them meet you at the front door, not getting a phone call from him, seeing his car in the yard and it's not moving. You know, certain things like that. It can be the little things that will remind you of that. So that process is going to take time for anyone. And I tell anyone that's going through the grieving process, as me and Don are mentioning, make sure that you always remember the great times. When you feel like you're going to get sad, think of a solid memory that you will always carry true and dear to you. And this goes to even the people that you value that are in your life that could be going through a health situation, or just even in general. Make sure that you create enough positive memories so when that time do come for you or that particular person, that you do not find yourself saying, what if I did this different? What if I would have went and picked the phone up that day? What if I went by their house? What if I would have said this or that? I want you to be able to say, we had so many great memories. I have no regrets about my relationship with them. Because the one thing about it is, once they're no longer here, you're going to be living regrets that you didn't do this particular thing. And, you know, I'm not going to call any names out, but even members of my family, when it first happened, was going through the process of, why didn't I make the phone call? Why didn't I come by for the hospital to see him and go even see him for a minute? And those are the things you don't want to go into regretting. So I encourage you, if you're going through the grieving process or you're in any type of process, create the best memories while they are physically present on this earth. Because the grieving thing goes on well past the time that they're on earth. And you will regret it, and you don't want to live lives with regrets. Grief is going to happen regardless, but regrets and grief, those are two terrible things to go through at the same time. Don't pass over to Ant.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like y'all have said, there's no textbook way to grieve. You know, everybody's process is different. There's no time limit on it. You know, anyone that tries to tell you like, hey, you know, you just need a little bit of time and you just get over it, that's not true at all. It's something that you'll live with for the rest of your life. And, you know, it's a process, you know, trying to navigate it. And the journey looks different for everybody. So, you know, for me in my experience, you know, I lost my mom in 2011. I lost my aunt in 2017, who, you know, my mom's sister, who basically helped raise me. I lost my grandmother in 2021. And then most recently, I lost my dad a couple weeks ago. And so, you know, it just, it takes a toll for sure, you know, and, you know, for a lot of people, you're not really the same after you experience it, especially depending upon how close you were with the person that ends up, you know, passing away. And, you know, that's okay. That's just a part of the process. And I think, you know, trying to heal through different ways, whether that's through, you know, religion or going to therapy or, you know, reaching out to, you know, people that you're close to and kind of relying on those individuals. Those are ways that you can approach, you know, trying to heal yourself. And it takes time. I mean, you know, don't get frustrated with yourself if there is an unexpected moment that comes about where you feel like you've been okay for the most part, but then, you know, you're watching a movie that that jogs a memory, or you hear a song or whatever it might be. That's okay. You know, like, you don't have to feel bad, especially, I mean, all three of us are men. You know, there was a stigma at one point in time where we weren't really allowed to, you know, show our emotions, or that it was looked at as, being weak if you did, have any type of, emotion or shed a tear or, express sadness. And I feel like, um, obviously mental health, has become way more important. And I feel like conversations that are being had now, it's okay for men to have and show that emotion. That's normal. We're humans. In fact, if you lose somebody that you really care about and you don't have any feelings around it at all, that's a bit odd, I would say. But yeah, I mean, the way Father's Day was tough for me when I lost a child in late December of last year. Yeah, sorry to hear that. Um, Also, my mom in 2009 and my pops in 2001. I saw my days plus my grandma in 2017. Yeah, sorry to hear that, Jordan. And like we said, it impacts all of us. The one thing I'll stress is, me. I'm an only child. I don't have any siblings, and so I am very much, the type of person where I just kind of keep things to myself. I'm very like self-reliant, um, and in this life, we're just kind of conditioned to just kind of keep going. You know what I mean? Like life, it happens. You have these moments that may make you sad, but at the end of the day, you're expected to just kind of pick it up and keep going, keep moving. So, one thing I will say is, for those that are very self reliant and have trouble sometimes depending on others, do not be afraid to do that. Whether that's close, family, or friends you've made through the church, whatever it may be, don't be afraid to lean on others, because those people they love you and they want the best for you. Um, Take advantage of those relationships. That's what they're there for. We're human beings. We're meant to communicate with others, and so holding that stuff in is not healthy, and it just one of the five stages we talked about is, or that Nate mentioned, is depression. And it's natural to have those emotions, obviously, but you want to make sure you're doing everything in your power to push yourself out of that. Um, you know, because it can have a detrimental effect on your life as a whole. But but yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's common. When you lose somebody, there's going to be negative feelings around it and negative emotions, and um, you just kind of you have to work through them. And there are ways to do that. So
All great points. I'm just over here. I'm over here eating right now. Uh, you know, very great points from both of you guys. Both of you guys pretty much touched on some of the points that that I was gonna mention. One thing about what Nate said is you got to remember those good times. You got to remember those good moments that you all had, with that person who you may, who you have lost. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to live your life with regret. You don't want to live your life in what could have been, what would have been, what should have been, and all that stuff. Even through some days, I still in my mind be like, I wish I would have called her a little more. I
yeah.
wish I would have went to go visit her a little more.
Hmm.
Then it probably wouldn't have sting as much. But at the same time, it's still gonna sting. Whether if it stings a little, it stings a lot. I mean, you lose a person that's near and dear to your heart, it's gonna sting a lot. And it's gonna take you a long time to get over it. And one thing about what Anthony said was, um grieving doesn't have a time limit, and that's one of the things that we endure in this society. In this society, you know we know that in this society it's so progressive and it's so um I want to say anti-sensitive to
Hmm.
the fact that you're not allowed to feel. You're not allowed to have emotions. You're not allowed to go through your whole entire grieving process. Oh, it's been 5 years, it's been 10 years, and you're still grieving over that. You're still crying over that. Like one thing we have to realize is we are not in control of how long somebody grieves. You're not in control of how long that person grieves. We cannot allow to people to dictate how long we grieve. I don't care if it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. It's gonna take it. You probably gonna be grieving for the rest of your life because that's you lost a person that was dear to your heart. It wasn't like a person off the street. It wasn't like a stranger. Like you grew up with this person, you had memories with this person, you hung out with this person, you loved this person. They took care of you. Like my grandma, she was not afraid to give give me her very last. She could go without, but as long as I had something, that's what she aimed for. She always, whenever she called me, she'll say, "Oh, you need something? What can I do? You good?" Like we always had that type of conversation, but it wasn't like a transactional thing, or as long as you do for me, I do for you. It was like, okay, you doing for me, so I'm gonna do for you. I'm gonna make sure that you're okay. I'm gonna make sure that you're taken care of. And when you have moments like that, you have memories like that, that stuff just don't go away overnight. So for all the people out there that's saying, "Oh, you should be over it already," you will never be over it. That's the point of grieving. That's the point, because the definition of grief that what I gathered was it's a deep sorrow, especially that is caused by someone's death. Is deep. The key word in there is deep. When something is deep, it has many layers to it. When you think about an ocean, the ocean is deep. No, some people say it's 20,000 leagues under the sea. That ocean is deep. It ain't just shallow. It's not 3 feet, 5 feet, not even 12 feet. That thing is deep. It's endless. So you have to think about it. Some of the things that we go through in life, it's not going to take 5 years, it's not going to take 10 years, it's not going to take 20 years to get over something. So it's like, who are you to try to dictate how long somebody has to grieve? Okay, you don't cried enough. Okay, get over it. Okay, you don't suffered enough. Get over it. You don't sat here and whined and cried and all this stuff. Okay, now get over it. No, you don't get to dictate when somebody gets over something. And that's the problem. Like, we're not allowed in this society. It's like we're not allowed to feel. We're not allowed to be human. We're not allowed to have emotions. Now, I'm not saying that those emotions are supposed to dictate your every move, or those emotions are supposed to um affect your entire life to the fact that you in depression and all this stuff. Like, I get all that, but at the same time, we have to allow that person to grieve. We have to allow that person to feel. We have to allow that person to go ahead and get those emotions out of there, because like Ant said, he's the only child. And funny thing is, so am I. My sisters, they're adopted, but I grew up being the only child. I grew up isolating myself. When it was something that I ain't like, I isolate myself. I still do to this day. When it's something that I don't like or something that annoys me, I isolate myself. I go into a corner all by myself. I don't talk to anybody else a lot. There's been some points, even in my own marriage. There's some things I don't even talk to my own wife about, because at the end of the day, I don't want to put that burden on her. I don't want to put any more on her than what she's carrying, because I know she's got her own stuff that she's dealing with, and I got my own stuff that I'm dealing with. So at the end of the day, I'm not finna unload on her so that she can be heavy. Like, I'm not finna do that. So at the end of the day, um, we you just take as much time to grieve as possible. There is no time limit on grieving. And don't let nobody try to guilt trip you into making you believe that there is a time limit on grieving. Because however you have to get all that out of you, do it. Do it. Just like it was a process for that person to die, it's a process for you to get over that grieving. It's a process for you to heal. It's a process for you to say, "Hey, this person died, but don't this ain't the end of me." Yes, my grandma died. She fulfilled her purpose on this earth. And sometimes I may feel like God took her away from here sooner than what she had to go. But at the same time, I got to say to myself, you know what? She left a legacy, and I got to carry it on. I have to be the best me. So, um, I love this topic because it really deals with something that's going on, and it just seems like ever since COVID, it's been like a rapid increase in deaths, young deaths at that. It's something when you have some people dying 70, 80, 90 years old. That's a little bit to accept, but when you start seeing deaths like in the teens, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, you be like, whoa, like, wait a minute. And that is stuff, it makes you reevaluate life a little bit. It makes you want to enjoy life a little bit more because we never know when our time is going to be up. So at the end of the day, I say all that to say this: how you deal with your grief, it's up to you. It's in your hands. Don't put it in somebody else's hands. Don't feel the need to go around and to make other people satisfied and show other people that you're strong and that you're trying to put on a face to say, hey, nothing don't affect me. Hey, I'm good. And knowing good and well you're not good. Like Ant said, if you need to go talk to somebody, talk to somebody. Go talk to that person. Go talk to a counselor. Go to a priest. Go to whoever you need to go to try to express yourself and get that stuff out of you, because at the end of the day, like Nate said, you do not want to live your life in regret. You do not want to have in your story what could have been, what would have been, what should have been. So however you deal with your grief is completely up to you. It's in your hands. Balls in your court.
Yes, sir. I agree 100% with what you said. And hit this comment real quick. Bias Truth, that's Mike. He said, doesn't make you any less of a man either. Gotta let those emotions run its course and be vulnerable enough to allow others to help. And I totally agree with what you're saying right here, because to be honest with you, I can even go back to the situation with my granddad. When we actually got the news, we were at my grandmother's house. And I chose, so just to give you guys this, we always keep it absolutely 100,000% on the show. We received a message from my aunt informing us he had passed away, but we were at the house with my grandmother and we had not told her. Right? Actually, when I found out, she was not aware at that moment. I actually left out of the house, and Mike was one of the first people I actually spoke to on the phone when it happened, and I cried like a baby. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. I mean, we're here to talk about where we are, so I cried like a baby. I talked to Don, and I text Don. Me and him text most of that evening about what was going on at the time. So allowing other people to help you will be so key along your journey to grieving, because at the end of the day, sometimes when you box it in, it becomes your worst enemy. Because when you, as we were talking about those earlier, the stages of grief, sometimes that trigger your anger stage. When you are going into your process of going through, hey, I'm going through the fact that I lost him or her. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to handle this going forward. And you could very well be having that internal battle, but a person to the outside world could be just coming to you about the simplest thing, and you flip out on them and they have no clue what's going on with you. And you never want to let your grief get to the point where it turns you into an angry individual. Because if it turns you into an angry individual, you can't receive the support that you would like to receive. Or once you start to bottle it to the point where nobody knows anything about what you're going through, it hurts you long term, because internally you're hurting, you're further doing damage to your mental rather than speaking upon it. And as this comment says, as men, especially men of color, I'm not going to sit here and be specific and go and say that it doesn't happen to everyone, but at the end of the day, we are probably some of the worst at dealing with our emotions, and we will go do everything but deal with the key thing, which is our emotions. And that's the one thing that you do not want to do in this generation, especially when you are blessed to gain people in your life, whether it's a friend, a significant other, anyone that's going to bring any type of positive words and encouragement. No, the person may not be able to fully understand the journey that you're going through in that particular moment. But at the end of the day, they by relieving yourself and receiving support, it helps you be at a much better place mentally. And at the end of the day, as they stated earlier, and as we saw the comment earlier, grieving is gonna be a forever thing. You're gonna never forget the day that the person transitioned. The day you won't forget the memories of either if they went into the hospital, did they get real sick. You won't forget those things, because those things were key to why they were no longer here. And everyone, unfortunately, has to go through that process at one point or another. And that goes back to my earlier point as far as making sure that you create the great memories, because what you don't want to do is find yourself grieving because you were on bad terms with the individual, or you went X amount of years and didn't see them, or you took the time away from creating memories rather than going at each other's throat. You don't want to go through those stages in life ever, because I promise you, it makes grieving worse when you go through a situation where you and a person weren't on good terms. I rest assured, and I know Don can probably test the same for him and his grandmother. I rest assured knowing that my granddad knew how much I loved and appreciated and valued him in my life. Matter of fact, I was there the day before he passed away. So he got a chance to see me in a somewhat healthy state, because the one thing I think that you two may also understand 100%, and even the viewers that are watching, a lot of times when a person is about to transition, they may be going through a lot of rough moments, especially if they're sick. They go through a X amount of period where they're sick, but they have that one day where they're really good. They're good, and it seems like they're close to perfect. A lot of times when that person have that one perfect day, you kind of know that they have their assignment now. Mm-hmm. But it's getting closer than it's getting sooner than later. But you kind of can sense that coming to your spirit that, hey, it may be a little closer than we think. So at the end of the day, you get an opportunity, regardless of whether they're in a great place or a bad place, to make your peace with it and come to a term where you're making sure that you give your last full effort in making an impact before that stage. And actually just want to show you guys, Jordan asked this question earlier. We actually hit on this question, so we can actually go past that question at this point. But I will open this one to pass this one over. Is it still okay to dream about your loved one? To be honest with you, yes, it is, because I know several. Absolutely. Matter of fact, this week, Pop came into my dream on Monday playing cards, and it was the weirdest thing ever. We love to play cards, so I was playing a spades game, and he was right across the table, and you know how you're talking back and forth with the individual. So you're gonna have certain dreams, so that'll never stop. And let me make sure to make this clear too. If your loved one comes to you in a dream, don't let it make you depressed. Sometimes when you get those dreams, and I know Don's gonna hit on this when he gets a chance to speak, sometimes those dreams are God's way of letting you know they're all right. That's their way of reappearing to say, hey, I'm fine. I'm just coming back into your dream to let you know I'm fine, so you can have another positive memory. I don't want your last memory of me to be you seeing me get a casket closed, or you burying me, or anything to that extent. It wants to be a positive memory. So make sure when that person that you love come into your dreams, you value that dream. You think back on that dream and let it remind you on good times. Because unfortunately, if you go through the stage and you're just depressed about them making an appearance into a dream or something that you least expect them to, it sometimes can ruin your day, can ruin your mood. You don't want it to do that. So allow, when the dream of a loved one that's no longer here comes to you, value that, because ultimately you're sharing a memory that you least expected to share with them. This is a post-transition memory. So value that memory, because that's what I had to learn to do. I had a couple dreams about him when he first passed, and I was just totally out of it. I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe he's not here. But then I grew to get to the point where I was like, I was happy to see him come into the dream, because it could be a joke that he said in the dream that made me laugh, that I remember all the years that he was here on this earth. So always remember the beautiful things that you share with that particular individual or people that you are grieving from, because at the end of the day, create more great memories so you can always remember those things. I don't want none of you to go through the process of, man, I didn't do enough. Man, I failed them. I felt them by not being around them. I felt them by not calling them. I felt them by not giving any type of impact. And you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that the impact that you make is going to be one that you'll always be thankful for. You want to always rest assured that you had a great stance when they no longer was here. You don't want to live with that, because if you live with that, that will care for you long term, not short term. So I encourage anyone that's going through that grieving stage, never say, what could I have done different? We all have a date of expiration. I hate to be so blunt about that, but we all have a date of transition. So at the end of the day, it's just nothing that you can do. It's not of your control. The best thing you can do is value them when they're here, value yourself while you're here. So again, it's okay to have those great memories come into your life. Make sure you cherish them when you always go through it. I'm gonna pass it over to Ed.
Yeah, I just have a couple of quick points. I guess last points to discuss. And some of them are just repeats of what we've already said. But don't be afraid to be vulnerable. We already kind of discussed that. Don't be afraid to be a burden. The people that truly love and care about you, they're going to embrace you when you're dealing with a tough time. So, like I said, take advantage of those people, and be appreciative that you have them to lean on in those situations. Um, Also, too, we're so used, like I said before, to just kind of, hey, I got to get back to work. I just gotta, I got to get back to grinding, whatever it may be. Take the time. When my dad passed, I looked into our bereavement policy where I work. They give us uh, 10 days of paid leave, and I was thinking to myself, like, hey, do I really need to take this time? And it's like I took it. Like, don't be afraid to take the time, sit down, and whether that's just giving yourself a mental reset or just kind of stepping away from everything and taking a break for a little bit. Take the time that you have. That job is still going to be there when you get back. Um, if they don't understand, then that probably means that you probably need to start looking for another job. If you're in a situation where it makes sense to do that. Um, like Nate was just getting into acceptance. Not only accepting that this person that you loved and cared about is no longer here with us, but also accepting that more than likely, there's nothing you could have done to impact what happened. Like, we have no control in these situations, like Nate was just saying. And once it takes time to get to that point. As far as dealing or going through those grief stages, but that's a very important one because a lot of people hindsight's 2020, and it's like when you recount your steps and you kind of look in the past, like you could have there's so many things that you could have potentially did differently, but it's just not reality. Like it's already happened. We don't get any redos, unfortunately. So, um, and then last but not least, just finding depression is a part of the grieving process, but I think a huge part of dealing with grief and being able to move through it is finding something that motivates you, that allows you to keep on pushing. And for me, it's like these people that I loved and that I've lost. I know that they would want me to continue trying to be the best version of myself. And so that's what kind of pushes me and motivates me, and allows me to keep going and um, dealing with it. So like I said earlier, it takes there's no definite defined time or whatever. It's just a process, and you're going to be dealing with it for the rest of your life. And so um, just do your best, and if you have setbacks, that's okay. Like it's okay. It's a process, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. So that's all I got.
Well, yeah, great points once again. Um, what y'all saying, it just takes me back to the tail end of the tail end of my grandma dying was a whole acceptance period for me. I could remember when my mom would go down to Florida because she was in the hospital in Florida. She would go down there and she'll go down there and see her, and she'll FaceTime me, and I could tell that she was crying and everything. And in my mind, I'm like, grandma gonna bounce back. Like she's strong, she gonna bounce back. This ain't nothing. And then it was time for me to go see her, and I so happened to look at a chart on the board where they tell you who your nurse is going to be and all that stuff for the day. and your meals and stuff. And I seen something say renal kidney failure. And my wife, she was telling me, when it comes to that renal kidney failure, that's pretty much the end. Like, you at the bottom stage. And um, one day I went to go visit my grandma, and it got so bad to where she didn't even know who I was. Like, and I never would have thought that I would have to experience something like that, like the point to where she would forget who I was. And I could remember just going in the car and just start crying because I never knew how bad it was. And yeah, when they transported her back to Georgia, on the tail end, and even when I got the news the same day that, they gonna it's not looking good. I remember I was at work and I just had to walk outside for a minute. I was crying. My coworker was like, "Man, dude, you need to go home. You need to go see your grandma." And I'm like, "Nah, man, I'm good. I'm just gonna finish out this day, and I'm just gonna finish it out. Then I'm gonna go see her." So went to go see her that night, and watched them numbers on the vitals go down, and until they got to zero. And I remember, just kissing her on her forehead, man, and her body was just so cold, man. And it's just, that's something that you don't want to experience, man, like that. And just actually just seeing her, watching her pass away is just, it's unbearable. Like, I could just remember my wife just holding me, and I was just boohooing, crying. Like, I don't even know if that was the most I ever cried in my entire life, because it's just like, I lost a piece of me. I lost a piece of my heart. And as men, as black men, as Nate was saying, like, we have to be vulnerable. We've been so programmed to be like, oh, just hold it in, don't be emotional, you gotta be hard and all this. Like, nah, man. Like, when you grieving, it ain't no time to be hard. Ain't no time to be not emotional. It's not time to be unvulnerable. Like, in those moments, you're going to be vulnerable because you don't lost somebody. And yeah, man, that was very hard for me to go through. But like I said, there was a whole acceptance period. And the one thing that made me overcome the grief some, because that, like I said, to this day, I'm still in my grieving period. Like David said in the comments, grieving is a forever process. Like, it's going to be forever before we stop grieving. And the one thing that allows me to keep pushing is she does not have to suffer. She is not suffering anymore. She don't have to worry about going to the hospital. She don't have to worry about going dialysis. She don't have to worry about taking pills. She don't have to worry about paying any bills. She don't have to worry about any of that. So even though I'm still on this earth living and I'm still going through the things of life, she don't have to suffer anymore. And that's one of the blessed parts of when someone passes away. And I know that in instance, it don't look like a good thing when somebody passes away. But as I look at the bigger picture of somebody passing away, it kind of it's kind of a good thing, because at the end of the day, that person don't have to suffer anymore. I don't have to see my grandma going through things anymore. I don't have to see her going through the aches and pains. I don't have to see her, struggling to try to walk and all this type of stuff. Like, I don't have to see all that. I can know and I can rest assured within my heart, within myself, that hey, she's in a better place. God's got her now. You know, she was his child first. Yeah, she was my grandma, but she's his child. So, like Nate was saying, we all have an expiration date. We all have that point in time where we're gonna have to go home. In the meantime, while we on this earth, we have to be the best us. Like, even me now, like, just thinking about what my great grandma went through, what my grandma went through. Like, I'm even making more healthy choices as far as eating, making sure I'm exercising, making sure I'm being the best me that I can be for me and my family. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to end up like them. I don't want to end up dying before I'm supposed to die, because I know that God has put me on this earth to do so many extraordinary things, and I don't want to die before I fulfill those missions. And so I'm making the conscious decisions in myself to make myself the best me. And at the end of the day, that's all about acceptance. That's all in the process of acceptance. Don't ever bargain. Well, God, if you bring her back, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do. God, if you bring them back, I'm gonna do this. No, like he has a plan and a purpose for everything, and those plans are for good. Sometimes he has to take that person away so that you can be the best you. But many people don't think about that because they thinking about, well, as long as he's here, as long as she's here, then I'm good. But at the same time, yes, you're good, but at the same time, are you being the best you? Because even people can be in our own way of growing. So I say all that to say this, like grief can birth so many things. Yes, it births vulnerability. Yes, it births you crying a lot. Yes, it can birth depression. It can birth bargaining, but it can also birth growth. It can birth maturity. It can birth some things in you that you never would have known that was in you until you went through that process. And sometimes we don't realize the strength that we have in us, the fortitude, the perseverance, the endurance that we have until we get to those points that test us. When we get to those periods that tests those things. And so, um, you know, take it all in. Take that time to cry. It's okay to cry. I don't care what society says. It's okay for you to cry. It's okay for you to feel. You're human. You're going to feel. You're going to have emotions. God gave you those emotions. He didn't give you those emotions for you to be in control, for them to control you. He gave you those emotions as a sense of humanity. And that's what we have to go back to doing, is go back to being human. Go back to being real. Like, don't let nobody tell you, oh, you won't you shouldn't be crying. You shouldn't be angry. You shouldn't be sad. What? I just lost somebody that was near and dear to my heart. You tell me I shouldn't cry? Like, come on, man. So we got to get back to feeling again and being okay with feeling.
Hey,
Absolutely.
I love and I gotta, before I get into the next thing, I gotta go back to two things that both of you actually hit on. The first thing is what Ant put a head on. I'm gonna be let's really make this thing very clear. I want to double down on that point that you made. If you ever go through losing someone, take that time off. I don't care what, as Ant said, his company had 10, mine had 5. But I took actually 6 or 7 days. I don't care what your policy says. If you're not feeling 100%, don't force yourself to go back in,
I took a whole
because you
week.
can't be the best version of yourself if you are gone for 2 or 3 days and then, hey, I'm back at work, and then you're in the middle of still grieving. Take the necessary time for you. I personally, for me with my granddad, I had already made it known before we came back off of because I work in the school system. So I had made it known to my supervisors and told all of them, hey, if anything happens to him, I'm not going to be here for at least a week. I'm just letting you know in advance, because at the time, I know Don probably remember very, very well, we were hearing that New Year's Day, he was in the ICU the last couple weeks he was alive. So we knew New Year's Day that they were going to be taking him off of the ventilator that he was on. So we went in mentally prepared. Hey, if anything happens, I'm letting you know I'm not going to be back. So it happened on the 3rd of January. So I missed 6 or 7 days, I believe. I think it was 6 or 7 days. So again, I would say take the time between the time it happens to a funeral at least. Don't try to force yourself to go to work like, no, I'm fine, because the first thing that a concerned person would say is, why are you here? That's the number one thing right there. Why are you here? You lost. I don't care who you lost. If you know that you're going through it and that person was close to you, do not force yourself to go back into this workplace, because the one thing that you all see on social media, I'm going to go ahead and hit it down on this topic right here. I know my bros understand what I'm about to say right here. Because the minute that person passes on, that job is up for replacement.
Mm-hmm.
So do not care about the time that you need to take for you, for your mental. That's why mental health is so important. Don't sit here trying to give a company or somebody your time when you're not 100% here or even close to being able to deal with it. Because it's unfortunately sometimes in this generation, we have to go through things where we're like, okay, we have to deal with certain things to an extent. But when you're going through a grieving process, don't force yourself to try to, oh, I'm sad. I've been crying all night long. I'm gonna go to work and give 8 hours. No, if you know you have not been in the best space mentally, call off. And if they don't understand, forget them. Excuse,
Mm-hmm.
that's the nice way for me to put it. I'm not telling you to don't do your job. What I'm telling you is your mental and your physical health has to be in check first and foremost for you to be able to succeed in this world. So when you're going through a grieving process, you have to make sure that that's the top thing that you take care of first and foremost. And as Don also stated as well, as far as dealing with your emotions, do not sit here and keep bottling it and knowing that you need that support, knowing that you need that help, knowing that you need someone to have a shoulder to cry on. Because I promise you that there's going to be someone out here that's going to be ready and willing to be there for you during your grieving process. And also, let me just make this clear in regards to that grieving process stage. If you know that someone near and dear close to you is going through a grieving process, never stop checking in on them. I don't care how long it takes for them, if it's especially if it's fresh. Because with the situation with Anthony, I know it's still kind of fresh to him right now. So if you're in his corner, don't stop checking on him. At the end of the day, that support needs to be continued to stay consistent. That needs to be done. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It needs to be consistent, no matter how long it takes, especially if the person is very close to you. Stay consistent with checking on them. Because if you stop being consistent and they go back into a tailspin and derail themselves, you will regret doing that. Don't stop giving the time in to support them physically, mentally, and spiritually. They need it in the grieving process. It never stops. It's a forever process. The one beautiful thing is it'll get better as time goes on. But as far as you stopping checking in, don't stop. I don't care if it's a 5-year anniversary. You check in that day if you know that that particular individual is going through it in their 5-year anniversary, 10-year anniversary. I don't care how long it takes. It's a forever process. Don't stop. I definitely wanted to make that clear first thing before I hit this that question, which came from Jordan as well. It says it's normal to feel a sense of guilt as such as what I could have done differently. I will say this: there's two ways that'll be hit. You can feel that way if you've been consistent, and you can feel that way if you've been inconsistent. If you were inconsistent, that's more of the sense of guilt. As far as you being sad, as far as you being down or depressed because you lost your loved one, that's natural. But for the individuals who did not stay on top of their game, that's where the guilt is going to come in because you can't go back and make those you can't go back and make those mistakes right, or you can't go back and give that value time to the individuals that need that value time. So, honestly speaking, if you feel that you could have done something different, personally, I put it to you like this: maybe it's a slippery slope because on one end it could be you were dedicated to that individual and you feel like, well, maybe it's something that I could have did, but it goes back to what I said about it doesn't matter what you may have done different as long as you put your effort in, that's what matters. But if you're feeling a sense of guilt, that means a person was inconsistent. That means the person didn't really give 100% to making sure that they were the best version of themselves for their loved one because they were too busy worrying about what took place in their own lives to worry about the person that they need to be concerned about in that particular moment. And that isn't the case for everybody. But there are a lot of people that when they go through that sense of guilt of I should have did this different. I should have drove to go see them. I should have called them on the phone on January the 2nd because I didn't know on the 3rd they were going to pass away. That's why you go ahead and you do the right things in the time that you should. So when that time do come, you don't go 5 months later, 6 months later, saying, why I didn't do this? Why didn't I make this happen? Why didn't I make that happen? You have the opportunity. That's what time is for. So make sure you put that time in if you feel that you are not doing enough, if you're not enough of yourself. So that way, when it comes time to grieve, that guilt won't be there. It'll be more so, I'm sad because you're gone, but I got great memories. I did this. Because rest assured, I can tell you right now, I'm gonna speak for all three of the great individuals on this platform right now. Dontario will never tell you that he would regret not being a great grandson to his grandmother because he was there. Ant will never regret being a great son to his mother and his father because he was there. Plain and simple. I would never regret not anything that I did for my granddad because I was in his life physically. So if you know that you are having, and this reached out to anyone that has a family member, friend, or anyone that's going through something right now, make sure you checking in on them. Because when it's too late, you're gonna be regretting it down the road. Don't put yourself in that position to have any regrets. So with that being said, I'm gonna pass it over to Ant.
Before Ant go, I wanted to piggyback off that question that George just asked. Um, when somebody passes away, that's normally the initial response that you're gonna have. What could I have done differently? Is it normal to feel a sense of guilt? Yeah, in a way, you're going to feel guilty in a way because in you, that's the love that you have for the person speaking outward. I could have done something differently. I wish I would have been there more. But it's at the same time, it's not your fault that that person passed away. And that's one of the things that we have to accept in when we're going through our grieving process. Now, I get that if you didn't put your best foot forward out there, you're going to feel guilty about that because in you're like, man, I should have did this, man, I should have did that. But like Nate said, when you was 100% going forward, checking on the person, checking on them every day, making sure that they was good, and you're feeling that guilt, it's okay. I mean, it's normal. It's normal, but at the same time, don't make it seem like it's your fault. It's not your fault that that person passed away. They just reached a point to, God said, okay, it's time. Either God said, okay, it's time for you to come home, or that person just they didn't want to live anymore. And I've actually heard of situations like that where people that had no business dying when they died just up and say, you know what, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Because the hurt and the pain and the anguish were just that unbearable that they did not want to go through it anymore. And at that point, that has nothing to do with you. They made up in their own mind to surrender. They made up in their own mind to say, you know what? I don't want to deal with this anymore. And that's not on you. And that's the thing that society tries to push on people when people pass away. What could I have done differently? Now you basically blaming yourself for that person passing away. And it shouldn't be that way. It's not your fault that person passed away. It was just their time. And like Nate said earlier, we all gonna have our time where we're gonna leave. But until that time, we're gonna be the best us. We're gonna be the best that we can be. And just like Nate just told me and Ant, Nate, like I know your granddad does not regret having you as his grandson because you did what you had to do as a grandson, and you did what you had to do for I believe it was either your granddad, your dad. I'm sorry,
Yeah, my dad and my mom and
your
my
dad and your
grandma.
mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, you was the best son. You was the best grandson that they ever had. I know to my grandma, I could tell you right now, she loved me more than my mom. And my mom was jealous. Sometimes my mom would get jealous of that. She like, why you make sure that he good? And she like, that's my baby. You ask anybody, my grandma said, that's my son, that's my baby. She always made sure that I was good. But at the end of the day, like I loved her. Nate, I know you loved your granddad. And like what you said, checking on those individuals every day. Bro, you can attest. There was not a day that I did not check on you. I checked on you every day, every day. Bro, you good? You need something? Need me to stop by? You want some chicken? Like, you want some food? Because that's what brothers, that's what people who love each other do for each other. It ain't just when they're, as long as I'm getting there, I'm gonna check on you. No, like even when you don't do for me, I'm like, you know what? He done lost somebody. Let me check on him. Because he needs that. You don't want that person to get into that isolation stage and they go to bargaining. Well, maybe I should go ahead and take my own life. You don't want nobody to get to that, because grief can cause that as well. Grief can cause you to have those suicidal thoughts. And it's like, you got to check those things before it get to that level, before it gets worse. And so don't be afraid to reach out. Reach out. Reach out. Ant can tell you I was reaching out to him. Bro, you good? You need anything? I'm here for you. You need to talk. You know, just like Nate was there for me when my grandmother died. Bro, you good? You need something? Like, that's what we do. That's what people do when they love each other, when they care about each other. So I'm gonna let Ant go, but I had to just pick it back off what Nate said.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple of quick things. And I don't know if anybody has said this already, but if anybody is struggling with their mental health, either in regards to losing someone, or depression after losing someone, or suicidal thoughts in general, please, reach out to the appropriate people and seek help. You are loved, you are valued, you're needed here. And so don't ever think that your life isn't important. But yeah, I mean, as far as Jordan's question goes, and y'all have already pretty much said everything there is to be said on it, but it's like, hindsight's 2020. Those are the tricks on mine. Like, when a situation doesn't go our way, whether it's dealing with someone passing away or just in general, those are the tricks your mind plays on you, where you think about, hey, what could I have done differently potentially in this situation to make it go differently? And that's, completely natural. And those are thoughts that you'll have to work through, and it takes time. They won't go away immediately. Like we said, since the beginning of the podcast, it's a process, and you just have to work your way through it. And it takes time. And like I said before, it's like if you have setbacks, or you take steps back on the journey, that's okay. It's perfectly fine. There's no right path to do it, or textbook path. It all looks different for everyone. So and I'm trying to think, was there hindsight's 2020? I already touched on that.
Before you go, I see my sis Christine in the chat. Yeah, I'm glad that you tagged in, Larry. I love you, bro. I'm here for you, man. I'm here for you. Tell my bro I'm here for you, man. I love him because he just lost somebody recently as well. I'm here for you, bro. So yeah, we'll go ahead. And I'm sorry.
But no, that's pretty much all I had. Is just, if you are dealing with those those kind of thoughts, or just struggling in general, reach out to the appropriate people. But it's a complex topic, and I'm glad that we've had this time to discuss it in general. So.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Catch up with these. Tevin, what's up, Tevin? He said, "Thank you, Dave, for checking in on me constantly, even though I don't respond. I've been sleep responding. I know. Knowing what I've been through the past couple years, real life, GOAT, man, real life. Hey, man, I love you, bro. And just to sort of share a little bit about, we both, me and Dontario lost a close high school friend of ours right bounced into the pandemic. He unfortunately took his life, and that was one of the toughest things to go through. And then a couple of months later, my boy Tevin, he lost one of his close friends as well. And that was it was crazy to see him go through it literally 4 or 5 months apart from what we were dealing with at the time. So that's one of the big reasons why I got big on saying to my bros on the regular, like, I love you, man, on a regular basis, because at the end of the day, it was one of those things that I didn't grow up hearing it from our family. We knew we loved each other, of course. It was never a thing that we didn't know that we loved each other, but it started to get to a point where it was one of those things that we needed to say on a regular basis. Like, and then the following year later, I would never forget, his name is on the tip of my tongue. You know exactly what I'm talking about, Dunn. We lost him in a car accident. He was a couple years older than us. Javius Gilbert. We lost him like a year later, and he was always heavy on the inspirational messages I did, and always returning the "I love you" back and everything. So those things are really, really key with me and with Dontario and the people that we're around, because you just don't know what people are going through behind the scenes, because it's hard when you have to still pull it together. I can imagine my bro, he has kids and a family. Like, I can imagine making sure your family good, but you trying to hold it together. And I know it's a lot of men out here that goes through this and women out here that goes through this. You're trying to hold your family together while you're trying to go through your own grieving process and grieving stage. And sometimes you are the strong person for everybody else, and sometimes you don't have that person to lean on. And I always attest for everyone to find that individual or people or circle to lean on, because at the end of the day, we can't be Superman at or Superwoman for everybody or even ourselves at all times. Sometimes you have to say, man, today's not the day. Sometimes I'm not feeling it today. I just need to go lay in the corner and go cry for a little bit and then come back 100% the next day. Sometimes you have to go through that, unfortunately, to get yourself to be back whole. And I can truly say that is one of the things that I encourage with everyone. And hit the other two comments. Me and Nate been bros since 05, been each other. Yes, sir, we definitely have. And he said Nate was definitely there for me between my mom and yes, that was, yes, I definitely was. That was tough to see. And I know he don't mind me sharing a little bit. I can't even, and I know my heart goes out to you as well, because I don't know the feeling of going through all of that and let me ask you real quick, how old are you, bro?
I'm 38.
Okay, so you're 38 and he's actually 33. So to see you guys actually go through the process of losing all three before the age of 40 is hard to see. And he lost both his parents before we even turned 20. Like, we graduated, we were a month before we graduated from high school, he lost his mom. So that she missed out on key events, unfortunately, like prom and graduation. So it was hard to see him have to go through that process and all those different things. And I have to commend him, because I don't know how, and I am a strong person myself, but I commend every one of you, yourself and him, anyone that's went through losing not one, even just one parent, but both. I admire your strength, because at the end of the day, I talk to my mom on a regular basis, like daily. Don, I know he talked to his mom on a regular as well. So to go through losing parents like that, I can't even imagine. And it's different. And it's hard to even see my mom going through the situation with my granddad right now, because she's been blessed to be into her 50s and have had both parents live deep into, at a somewhat, as Don said, somewhat of a normal stage where you may lose someone in their 80s or 90s or even better, because at that point you have really lived a fulfilling life. But to go through losing them at such a young age is really hard to see. So I truly commend anyone that's had to go through that.
Yeah.
And Katie Bailey said, the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Adults need villages too, especially when they're grieving and going through tough. Yes, sir. And I can truly say, and I'm gonna just add to what Don said earlier. He was at my granddad's funeral. Don came by the night before and spent time with me. He checked on me every single day, and truly, my village got me back right quick. And I can truly say that, because if I didn't have that option of being able to pick that phone up and talk or text or call or anything like that, I don't know if I could have got to a okay space as fast as I did. But it was one of those things where I could say I'm not going to say I had to rush through my grieving process, because I didn't. But in my particular case right now, my grandparents were married from 1956 up until the day he passed away. They never got divorced. They were always together.
Wow.
So to go through having your soulmate here for 66 years and go from you can't see them no more. So my grandmother is still going through the process. So we come together as a family to make sure that she's fine. Because at the end of the day, although we lost one, we still blessed to have another. He lived for 87 great years, and I can never sit here and say I can say I'm blessed. I'm 32, and I was able to have him here for 32 years. He got a chance to see a lot of accomplishments in my life. So at the end of the day, I can't be selfish and be, oh man, he should have just lived longer. 87 is amazing. I would never take that. And then my grandmother, she's 84. So we now have the blessings of having another grandparent dwell into their age. My great grandmother, Don, probably remember this. She made it to her 100th birthday, and then she passed away a month after. I couldn't be sad about that. 100 years. One of our aunts lived to be 109. So I couldn't be. You get what I'm saying? So it's a blessing to see those living deep into their late years in their life. So I will never sit here and say that it's a bad thing to be in a grieving process, but you'll be more at peace when they have lived a fulfilling life. But as for you ones that are dealing with anyone that passed at a young age, like Don said, we are extending our prayers every single day, because at the end of the day, that's hard to go through. But we also want you to know that we're proud of you, because if you tune in, that means you had enough strength to keep pushing. And if you don't feel like you don't have enough strength, the fact that you wake up every day and you find a reason to get up out that bed, to go do something amazing, to go do anything in life, that speaks volumes to your strength. And I commend you 100,000% for that. And one last thing, and I'm going to get back to it, Don. Byron, definitely, I remember Byron said he lost his mom in the same time frame as well before seeing. Yes, it was crazy. They both lost their mom like in an 8-month span. So it was, we were definitely supportive to them as well. So it was hard to see your good friends go through losing a parent at 17 and 18. Like, that was hard to see.
Oh, yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, because you're not even, when you're 17 and 18, you're not really, you haven't even hit adulthood yet. And I feel like that's when you need them the most. Like, that's when you're gonna need your parents the most. And that's why it's so important that you surround yourself with that village, like KD was saying, because you never know. If your parents not here, then you got to have somebody else that's in your corner to reach out to, who's in your village. And I know me and Nate had talked about on the previous podcast before, like, you have some people that's in your circle, and then you have some people that's on that outer perimeter. And sometimes your circle is going to be smaller than our perimeter, because the people in your circle, that's who you need to keep. You need to keep the people in your circle, because the people in the outer perimeter, they just looking out on the outside looking in. But the people on the inner circle, they really know you in and out, because they've been around you for so long. They know you, and you know them. So yeah, you got to surround yourself with that village, with those people that's gonna see after you, that's gonna they're gonna want the best for you at the end of the day. Like Nate was saying before his granddad's funeral, even though I couldn't make it to the funeral, I made it my business to come over there and see him, because at the end of the day, ain't no matter what it was gonna take, I was going to see him. Yes, and he can tell you some days, like, man, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna be at the house or not. I said, you let me know when you gonna be at the house, and I'll be there. You let me know.
It was definitely, because that week was definitely rough.
It was crazy.
We were in the middle of planning because, to be honest with you, my birthday is January the 11th. Initially, they wanted to do the funeral on a Wednesday. I absolutely was against it. I said I would not have a funeral on my birthday. That's not going to happen. I refuse to go through that. So, it was like we went from he passed on the 3rd to the 4th. We was in the process of the funeral. So it was like a 4 to 5 day planning thing. So, yeah, we had to make a way, because, having to be up there for a lot of different things, you have to show your face. So it's one of you get what I'm saying? It's one of those things. So yeah, Dunn definitely made it his business. I felt bad. I'm like, I don't want to see him, but it's just everything going on at once. And I think you probably understand 100% on that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I definitely understand, because I was the same way. We had to, even though we was up here in Georgia and the funerals in Alabama, we had to get the flower arrangement. We had to get the casket, because my grandma had actually put me down for beneficiary, so I had to be there for the paperwork. I had to be there to check, make sure that everything was good, the casket was good, the flowers good, everything was good to her liking. And so Yeah, I had to be down there. And like Anthony was saying earlier about the job and taking time off. Take that time off. Like, you have to make sure that you're good at the end of the day. Make sure that your mental health is good. Like, don't have these jobs out here trying to put these mandates on you. Well, you know, you got to be at work. Nah, I got to get my mind right before I can come to work. Cause I can remember the day after my grandma died, I went to work. I was just sitting there at the desk. I couldn't even do my work. I was just sitting there crying. I was sitting there scrolling through photos of me, her, my mom had took and everything. And I was just sitting there crying. The dude had stopped on his phone. He like, dude, man, just go home, man. Go home, man. Like, you won't have no business here, be doing here. Like Nate was saying, you gonna have that person that's gonna ask you, why are you here? You just lost your grandma. Why are you here? Like, go home. And that's what I did, man. I had to go home, man, because even though I tried to press through it, it was just unbearable. Like, I couldn't muscle this. Like, it's plenty of stuff I can muscle my way through. That right there, that really broke me down right there. So, if one thing that's gonna cripple a man at the end of the day is lose somebody that's real close to him. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you had anything to add?
Can I say one last thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like a lot of people don't understand, especially if you're younger, when you lose someone and you're actually like involved in that process of getting things settled after they pass away, it is so overwhelming, ridiculously overwhelming. I mean, planning funeral arrangements, putting obituaries together, like and that's, handling their financial affairs after everything is said and done. It's just it's a big mess, and so, it's like if you're of age, just a quick reminder, and you have property and things in your name, make sure you got your stuff in order. That way, people don't end up. So it doesn't. You want to make it as smooth of a process. Obviously, losing someone is terrible, but if you can make it as smooth as possible, your family members and loved ones will definitely appreciate that. Going back to what you were saying.
One thing. Can you repeat that one? I need them to hear that one more time. Please repeat that last part one more time, please.
Well, as far as making sure your stuff is in order?
Yes, please repeat that one more time.
Yeah, man. If you got things in your name, property, if you have a home that that you own, like, have your affairs in order. Have a will and testament, have life insurance,
I'm gonna tell you. I'm sorry. Before my grandma died, I didn't believe in no life insurance. Like, I wasn't finna get no life insurance because at the end, you're not finna take no extra money on my check. Like, I need all my money. But
people don't understand how much funerals cost. Like, to bury someone in a proper way and to give them a proper send off.
Man,
I mean, you're talking. It's not cheap at all.
It's not.
And so
even the headstone's not cheap.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
and I'm not sure. I know. Before you get back to your point, I'm pretty sure you know this firsthand. Just for the people that are viewing down, you might as well say it's gonna be close to $10,000. Let's just throw that out there.
Probably at least
since say $10,000
with COVID and the way that things have increased in price. You're probably talking about a minimum of $10,000, if not more.
Minimum.
Depending on what they want. You know what I mean? And so it's like, have your stuff in order. Make it as seamless as a process as you can for your loved ones.
Yeah, I made it my business and get life insurance. I said, you know what, I'm going to get some life insurance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my family ain't gonna come out of pocket to bury me. No.
And also too, it's like don't have your family members. Death, unfortunately, like I said, it hurts to lose someone, but also it can bring out the worst in people when it comes to handling.
That.
Yeah, it can bring out the worst in people, unfortunately, when it comes to
possessions,
family possessions, and property and stuff like that after someone passes away. And that's another unfortunate part of it too. Is like,
I want that truck.
Yeah, exactly. Like you really figure out you figure out very quickly
who people are. Yeah.
who people are after someone passes away.
You see, I had to sit back in this chair and I
Mm-hmm.
was sitting up for it. But when I tell y'all that are tuned in, you better be taking notes of everything that Anthony is telling you, because if you say it won't happen with your group of family members or people that you know, it will.
You sadly
Because
mistaken.
you learn a lot. And I
Yeah.
know I've learned a lot over the last 6 months. And I was just like, are we really dealing with certain things? Certain things you cannot believe you're dealing with in the middle of grieving. And I can imagine how it was for Ant, because I know how it was for me back in January. I'm just like, is this what you're supposed to be prepared for? Because
no one thinks like, oh yeah, oh no, my family, we're close, like we love each other. No, like we're not gonna have to deal with any of that. But I promise you, you will be surprised with how things turn out, and what you find out about what people really value when someone passes away. And so, the mask, the mask comes off, and you really get to see underneath it, and what people are about. So yeah, just have your stuff in order. Make things easy for your family. Make it so that there's no arguing. Everything is already assigned to where it's supposed to go, or there's someone who you trust to make those decisions. And make sure it's in the paperwork, and make sure that people know where the paperwork is. That's another thing too, not just that it exists, that people have copies of it, and everything is in order. But the last thing I'll say about this is, like like Nate and Donna said, we have no control over these situations and what happened. But if you are, unfortunately, like, there are hardships in friendships and in relationships with our loved ones. And you just want to make sure that life is short. You never know. You know what I mean? Like, these people that we expect to be in our lives for, 20, 30 years from now, it doesn't always turn out that way. So just make sure that if you have a strained relationship with anyone, whether it's a friend or a family member, make sure you're doing everything in your power to smooth everything over. And some things cannot be repaired. You know what I mean? I know that, but in situations where it is like a petty dispute that's just kind of gone on for years, and neither of y'all have gotten over it,
It ain't
just
worth it, man.
let it go. Yeah, like it's not worth it. And you don't really know. You don't know how bad you'll feel dealing with those emotions about the what ifs and all that stuff, until someone that you really loved and cared about at one point in time, and then the relationship got estranged, and then you end up losing that person unexpectedly. Those things can haunt you for a long time. And obviously, like you said, uh, it's not your fault that something happened to them, or that they passed away. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you've done everything in your power to make sure that the relationship is good. So
That's true, man.
yes,
That's true, man.
my boy Bryson shaking his head. True story. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And hey, Don, I got to give it. Ant really hit some real points, and
He
I
did.
appreciate that you was going there, because I wouldn't even go there, but I appreciate you doing that, because it really did need to be said.
It's real stuff, man. People, you don't know it until you experience it. That's why my mom passed away when I was 26. So I was still just a young man at that point. But it gave me a really good understanding of everything that comes along with that process of when someone passes away, and everything that you have to prepare for. So, it's a lot, not just from an emotional perspective, but financial as well, which we just talked about. So, just gotta, and like Don said, when you lose people, especially if it's related to health or something like that, it should be motivation to make sure that you're taking care of yourself in the proper way. You just want to put yourself. You only have so much control over how things turn out, obviously, but you want to make sure you're putting yourself in the best position to live as long as you can. So, especially as Black people with the history of health issues that that we've had. So
hypertension, diabetes, obesity, like all blood pressure, all that stuff has ran through my family for so long. And I told God the generational curse gonna stop with me. I'm gonna put an end to it. Because my great grandma, she dealt with diabetes, insulin. My grandma dealt with it, insulin and pills and dialysis. My mom, thank God, she don't have to go through that. I'm not gonna go through that. So I want to make sure that I'm here for my wife, and for my family for a long time. I don't want nobody burying me before I'm supposed to die. It's not going to happen now on my watch. And like Ant said, he hit so many things because it's like the same person that helped assist put the person in the grave. And I actually experienced this at the funeral. Was the same person that came in boohooing, crying, "Oh my God, like, I can't believe that." Like, if you would have did what you were supposed to do, she probably would have been here. She probably still would have been here. And it's like, it's ridiculous. Like, don't show remorse at the funeral now because she's gone. Like, you're supposed to be concerned throughout the entire process. And it's like Ant said, that mask comes off at that time. That mask truly comes off, and you truly see the people who for who they really are. And I understand that people, and I'm just gonna say this, I understand that certain things come up, circumstances come up that's outside our control. And I'm not trying to say this, throw shade on anybody, but I'm just gonna say it. There will be no GoFundMe account created to bury me at all. At all. There should be no reason why a GoFundMe account is created to bury somebody. Like, get life insurance. Like, easy. Like, it's easy. Get life insurance. That extra $60, $70 that you go and eat out, on a weekly basis. Take that, spend that one time a month. If you need some help in that, I know people. Like, I know some connections, give you some real efficient life insurance that pays good and it's efficient. I know people. So get that life insurance. Like, we shouldn't be out here trying to create GoFundMe accounts for somebody to get buried. Like, it shouldn't be like that. Like, we have to get our priorities in check. We got to make sure that, like Ant was saying, make the process as easy as possible. And I think that both of y'all said this last time I checked. Make sure your paperwork, the arrangements are in order so that it can be a smooth process. You don't want people coming out. Like, I'll tell y'all this right now. My family had to come out of pocket to bury my grandma because she didn't do what she was supposed to do as far as her life insurance. So we had to come out of pocket for some, but we made it work. And I told myself, that ain't gonna be for me. It ain't gonna be for my wife. It ain't gonna be no coming out of pocket for us. I'll tell you that. So you just make sure you get all that in order. It don't take a few minutes. Get with your family. We need to set this up. We need to set that up. We need to put this back. We need to put that back. Like, you set it up. Like, it's easy. It's just communication. I know Nate got a whole lot to say.
Now, I'm about to piggyback on what you just said. And let me throw this out here. And this is really a lesson for our generation and for our generation. Make sure that the older generation, if you are in a position where you have somewhat of a knowledge of life insurance and the things that the elder individual that you are making sure is taken care of, make sure that is straight. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, for a lot of families that have the separate generations, what I mean by that is this: like, in my case, Don and myself, we're all in our 30s. For someone that's gonna get that may have life insurance that are in their 70s and 80s, the difference in what the life insurance policies were back in the 90s and 80s in comparison to 2023 is different. So $5,000 could have buried a person back in 1991, and they cannot bury them in 2023. So make sure that if their policy doesn't match, can't really put them away, make sure that you have enough money, because as Don just stated, his family had to come out of pocket to handle certain things.
Five
And I think in a lot of
$5,000 don't even, you can't even afford a plot in the ground
right.
for $5,000. Like, nah. Go ahead, man. I just want to throw that out there.
You're right though. So, but a lot of those things have to be paid attention to when you are taking care of handling affairs for a loved one, because those things will come into fruition at a particular point because there's a difference in the generation. The economy has changed. So and it's nothing against what the older generation did. What they did at the time was great because that's what the income was, that's what the price of things were. So at that time, it could have handled those things. But so that means it's imperative for you as a future generation now to make sure, if you got, like Don said, if you got to pay that extra $50 to $100 a month, however much it costs at your job or whatever, pay it. Because I would rather you have a situation where something unfortunately happened to you, where you have to pay you have $100,000 life insurance policy. At least that $100,000 life insurance policy will take care of a funeral, at least, depending on what you want, like Ant said. Because what you don't want to do is find yourself having to take on your loved one's debts, because that is another situation that'll come into place down the road. Although they have passed on some of their debts, can be passed down to you. You don't want that to happen. So you want to make sure that thing is in check.
Yeah, and that could be the additive to the grief for some of the people out there they're saying, "Oh, y'all, what y'all talking about right now ain't got nothing to do with grief." It has everything to do with grief.
Yes,
because not only are you grieving over the fact that you have had to bury a loved one, but now you grieving over the fact that you actually had to come out of pocket to bury, not only bury them, but you're still paying on the access, on the excess things they own. So all that adds into the grief. All that adds into the depression, into the bargaining, into the negative things. So it does tie into grief to a certain extent.
Yes, sir. He's right 100%. And that is so true because, again, that physical financial stress is part of grief. It's the truth. It's a part of your grieving. So you want to make sure that those things are in place. And we're telling you from experience. Like I thank God that I don't thank God about losing my grandfather, of course. But I thank God I've seen the experience of what you have to be prepared for, because it's the little things you have to prepare for. I had to go get another suit. I had to get a dress. I had to get this taken care of. They may want a particular thing that they said in their will that they couldn't afford in their will. So all those things come into play. So you got to make sure that those things stay in place, because you want to make your grieving process as smooth as possible. That's the number one thing that we are encouraging through this situation. And I can wholeheartedly attest that that'll make it easier on you down the road. But ultimately, as Ant said, that was one of the greatest points that he could have hit on, was about having everything in order. Because I promise you, the grieving, even going through the ups and downs with family members, I'm going to be honest, there's going to be at least one family member that's going to show their true colors after a loss of a loved one. It's going to happen. And it's not even a thing. It's not even so much of, oh, we're wishing it to happen. It's going to happen. You don't know who it's going to be, but it's going to happen. Somebody's going to be thinking the wrong way. And they may not even realize they're thinking the wrong way in the moment, because they're in their mind, they're having selfish thoughts, but they're going to be thinking the wrong way. So you have to be prepared for that. So again, make sure that the grieving process go as smooth as possible. That's all I encourage with that. And I pray that you all that are tuned into the show have had a way of releasing those thoughts to yourself, because even doing the show with Don and Ant, I can say a lot of things that may have been sitting on my heart for the last 6 months have been able to come off by even communicating it to our viewers out here, and even with my guys. So again, let these shows be therapy to you. Let it be a chance for you to speak on whatever is on your mind, because at the end of the day, it's what we're here for. It takes a lot to see 3 strong black men or men in general to come on a air for over an hour and a half and speak on true emotions. That is not easy to do. To sit here and have our face live. This is not a pre-recorded show. This is live. So our raw emotions is happening right now and you're watching it. So again, it's a blessing to be able to do this. But again, let these be your moment. I don't care if you flood the comments with 20 comments and then this be your therapy session. I love it. Make sure you do that because at the end of the day, and if you feel this way, go back and watch it. Keep watching it. Let it be therapy. Let's see what you guys got to say about
it.
No, I mean, no, you
yeah,
go ahead. You go.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I feel like we touched on a lot of different things. I just hope that, for people that are out there that are, dealing with loss and kind of struggling with it, I hope that you've taken, that there's something that you've seen value in what we discussed tonight, and that, the topics we touched on, can give you, even if it's a little bit, peace of mind kind of concerning, the loss of someone that you really care about, I hope that you found that in watching our discussion. But, I appreciate everybody who's tuned in, and, I appreciate, both of y'all for, having this platform where we can discuss this. I think it's a super important topic, and I'm glad that we've, taken the time to discuss it in detail. So.
Yeah, man, I've truly enjoyed tonight. I've enjoyed you guys. Two of the best bros or bro can never have. I've enjoyed the chat, sharing your experiences and the things that you've gone through in your grieving processes. I commend each and every one of you for having the strength to even share those experiences because it's not easy. Especially for men, like it's not easy for us to come on here, like Nate was saying, and to like pour our hearts out to everybody live. It's not easy doing that, but because as me and Nate say all the time, we don't make the show. The audience makes the show. Y'all make the show. The people who's tuning in, y'all make the show. Y'all make this thing, this podcast, what it is. And if somebody out there that needs to have a therapy session, let them know where to come at. Let them know that they can tune in right here on the Kingpin Talks podcast on these episodes, and they can come out and they can air out whatever they're going through, and we'll use our God-given abilities and talents and knowledge to pass it on, because this knowledge that we have, it's not just for us, it's for everybody else, to encourage other people and to educate other people on how to do it. Not saying that we have it all together. We're not perfect. We still go through our processes. We still are growing and maturing in our own individual areas. But at the same time, what we do know and what people don't know is what we do know can be helpful to somebody else they may not know. And we can grow together. And that's the thing that I wanted for this podcast, is that not only myself and Nate and Anthony grow, but you as an audience can grow as well with us, not having this crowd basket mentality to say, oh, you're almost out the basket, so let me pull you down and keep you down where I'm at. No, if you get out the basket, cool for you. Kudos. Help somebody else get out the basket. Then it'll be a whole crab train, like we'll help each other get out the cage, you know what I'm saying? So I've enjoyed tonight. Like I said earlier, I know we've been away for a while, and we will not be away a while any longer. We're going to be on here more consistently. We're going to be on here giving you more topics, more discussions, more episodes to the best of our abilities. And what better way to come back than with an episode with a topic like this? Because even in this year alone, it's been so many deaths. It's been so many deaths. Like, I read a statistic in March that we was already at 128 deaths in the year, and I'm pretty sure we have totally eclipsed that number by now. But only thing I want to say is that I appreciate each and every one of you. I love you all. Thank you for supporting the channel, supporting this podcast, supporting this movement, this brand. And just know that we want you guys to come along with us. And that if you're in a point in your life where you're grieving, where you're going through a loss of a loved one, just know that it is not your fault. God still got great plans for you. He still got great things in store for you. You are loved. You are valued. The fact that he woke you up this morning is an indication that he's not done with you. He has many things to fulfill through you and in you on this earth. And even though that loved one may have they passed and gone away, be encouraged that they don't have to suffer anymore. Be encouraged that they don't have to worry about another bill. Be encouraged they don't have to worry about when the next meal, when the next drink, when the lights gonna be on, when the water gonna be on. They ain't got nothing. They don't have to worry about anything but living in eternity. So while we're here on this earth, use the lessons that they taught you, use those memories that they gave you to help propel you and to push you into who you need to be, into who God has created you to be. Because just as he worked through them to be the best them, he's working through you even now to get you to this point to where you are now. Because if he did not believe in you, if he did not see any good in you, he would not allow you to go through this grieving process. And the fact that he allows you to go through this grieving process is an indication that you already have the strength to overcome it. You already have the strength to overcome depression, to overcome low self-esteem, to overcome, well, I can't make it today, so I'm just going to give up. You already have what you need. So use it. Use that strength that you have on inside of you. And don't be afraid to feel. Don't be afraid to have emotions. Do not allow society to tell you that it is not okay to feel, that it is not okay to be emotional, that it is not okay to be vulnerable. Because that is what the world needs to see in this day and age. They need to see something that, and some people, that's real. They need to see realness. They need to see people who are emotional. They need to see people who are vulnerable. They need to see people who are real. But the only way they're going to see that is if we allow ourselves to become vulnerable. So I pray and I hope that each and every one of you took something of value that we have shared on here tonight, that this will aid you in your experiences with grief, and it will open up a different perspective in your grieving process. Because at the end of the day, life is all about growth, but it's up to you. Balls in your court. And that's all I have to say on that part right there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can go ahead and wrap it on up for everyone that's tuned in. It's been a great episode of Kingpin's Talk Podcast. Unless you guys got anything else to say, we can go ahead and sign off.
Yeah, I'm good. Appreciate it.
I'm good too. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. And we'll see y'all on the next one. Enjoy the rest of y'all night. Peace.
All right.